And we are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. Going to be doing a live Ball Mania draft on this live stream. Cannot wait to get after it. It's the best time of year. We are one day away from August. We got almost actual football on our TV screens in less than a little more than 24 hours at this point. I think it probably starts a little after 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. Can't wait for that. It's draft season, guys. It's the best. It's the best time of the year. We're going to be broadcasting this live on YouTube, the entire draft. This is draft, I think, Best Ball Mania number 77 for me. So I'm over halfway through the 150 Best Ball Mania drafts that I'll probably do, going back and forth if I'm going to max enter or not. But we are going to be talking everything you need to know about fantasy drafts at this live stream. I got up on the TikTok live. The order I think the first round of fantasy draft should go right now. Probably going to make a video about this at some point in the next couple of days. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube live. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We got 4 more people to join this draft over on Underdog, $25 Best Ball Mania draft, and then we'll be drafting live on this stream. Let's go. Need some fantasy draft content in my life. Was glad to see you were going live. Hadley, how we doing, man? Great to see you in the live stream. It's fantasy draft season, man. It is time for some fantasy draft content. And here we go. The draft filled. I get pick 11. Not my favorite pick in the world. We'll see how it plays out. Might get a little crazy here at pick 11. Why is Bijan going so high in a TikTok live? So here's how I think the first round of fantasy football draft should go. I guarantee you this draft I'm in right now will not go this way because this is a best ball draft. It's going to skew more wide receiver heavy. But this is the order I think your redraft league should go in the first round. You want to get the first round right. I honestly don't really think there's a way to go wrong with the first 8 picks. Arguably the first 9 if you want to extend it to A.J. Brown as in that area, at least near that top tier of guys. I think a little bit lower floor for him than some of these other guys, but similar ceiling. But I think there's a pretty big drop-off right around pick 10, pick 11, assuming your draft knows what they're doing. But this is the order I think it should go in PPR leagues. Number 1, Christian McCaffrey. Not much to talk about there. I'll pull it up on the YouTube live. We can look at some of the game logs as we're talking through this. I'm live on TikTok and YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, you'll get all the same information on the YouTube live, but you'll get a much better viewing experience on the YouTube live because I can share my computer screen to a live draft I am doing live. The first 2 picks were just made. Christian McCaffrey went first overall. No confusion as to why CMC is going to go first overall in almost every draft. CeeDee Lamb, I think, should go second before Bijan. The reason Bijan's going so high is because Bijan Robinson, by everything that's come out of the team this offseason, from the general manager to the head coach, the offensive coordinators, that Bijan's going to be used like Christian McCaffrey this season. And that was not the case for Bijan last season. If we just take a quick look at Bijan's rushing share last season, Bijan saw less than half of the carries for the Falcons last season. Massive opportunity to see that number go up. I think it's going to be closer to 70, 75% this season for Bijan. I think there's a legit chance for Bijan to lead the league in rushing touchdowns this season. For sure, that's in the cards for Bijan on an improved offense with Kirk Cousins at the helm. A lot of reasons to be bullish on Bijan, but the other reason to be very, very in on Bijan Robinson is the receiving role, which was like kind of sneakily top 3 in the NFL last season in his rookie season. Let me pull up the target share here for a second on the YouTube live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube, guys. Come to the YouTube live if you want a better viewing experience. I'm in a live draft. I'm actually about to be on the clock here. Yeah, 17% target share for Bijan last season. That ranked as running back 3. All right, A.J. Brown on the clock here at pick 11. I'm going to take that all day long. I was saying I don't love pick 11. I love pick 11 if A.J. Brown is going to fall to me at pick 11. I'm taking A.J. Brown over Puka Nacua. I'm taking A.J. Brown over Garrett Wilson as well. Both those guys went ahead of him in the draft. I'm doing live on YouTube right now. Real draft, not a mock draft. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching live on TikTok, smash the like button as well. We got Drake London sitting here. I have been trying to get a little bit more exposure to Drake London. I think I'm probably going to take him here at ADP in this best ball draft I'm doing. I'll talk a little bit more about why I'm very in on Drake London, but I'm going to do that now. We'll get there in a second. Someone asking in the YouTube live, what's the news on Tyler Algier? Yeah, so let me see if there's any if the report found its way into the Walter Picks app or not. We can pull this up here, and it didn't. But there's a report came out, coach speak. Coach said something along the lines of, yeah, Tyler Algier is going to have a big role this year. I actually don't think it was much to read into. Tyler Algier is one of the highest end handcuffs in fantasy football, but that's exactly what he is. He's a handcuff, not a guy that you're going to be able to trust week to week. Bijan is going to see a massive workload. So I'm not really like drafting Tyler Algier as anything more than a high upside handcuff, which he absolutely is. He's one of the higher end handcuffs, I think, in fantasy football. We've seen Tyler Algier be efficient. All of these offensive improvements things would apply to Tyler Algier as well. If Bijan were to go down, I don't think there's very much competition for him after him on the depth chart either. How do you get to the YouTube Live? All your 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube Live. You go to the TikTok bio and you tap on YouTube, and then I think you tap one more time to the YouTube channel, or just look up Walter Picks on YouTube. I was thinking Chase at 5. Yeah, so I got Chase at 7. I'm not going to argue like with anyone who wants to debate really picks 3 through 7. I feel like there's some really good debate to be had between Bijan, Tyreek, Breece, Jefferson, Chase. That's the order I have it in. I'm taking Jefferson over Chase personally because Jefferson's the best, has had the best start to a wide receiver career we've ever seen. Like, I think undoubtedly Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the NFL. Maybe you could argue Tyreek Hill over him, and I'm fine taking Tyreek Hill over him in fantasy. Definitely don't want to underrate Tyreek Hill's upside in fantasy football on a weekly and season-long basis. Definitely a better environment for Tyreek than Jefferson, but I'm just not that scared about the quarterback situation at all for Jefferson. We saw him ball out with Nick Mullins. I think he has the record for the most receiving yards per game in a player's first 3 seasons. So yeah, I'm fine taking Jefferson over Chase personally. I think Chase has more competition for targets. I think Chase is a similarly good pick though. Like I'm cool if you want to take Chase over Jefferson because the quarterback situation, fine with me. I think there's some systemic risk with the Bengals with the injury for Burrow potentially being a bigger deal than they're letting on. But right now he's fully healthy, so I'm fine with Chase over Jefferson if that's the way you want to play it. But personally, if I'm on the clock, I'm at pick 6. In the first 5 picks, go Christian McCaffrey, Lamb, Bijan, Tyreek, and Breece. I'm taking Jefferson. I'm taking Jefferson over Chase. I'm taking him over Amon-Ra. I think there's a good debate to be had between all 3 of those guys. The drop-off in running backs this year, guys, is massive. This is part of the reason I'm bumping Bijan and Breece pretty early up in my draft boards over some of these really like high-end, safe floor, extremely high upside receivers. I'm comfortable taking a stab at Breece or Bijan with a top 5 pick. I'm going to have Bijan on several of my fantasy teams for sure with how early I'm taking him. I think he will slide as far as pick 8, like he did in this draft I'm doing live on YouTube right now. I'm doing a live draft now. And I promise you, this is not how the first round went in this real draft, $25 draft on YouTube live right now. Link is in the TikTok bio if you want to go to that, or just look at Walter Picks on YouTube. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube live and in the TikTok live. I take St. Brown over JJ, just a safe pick this year. St. Brown's super safe. He's super safe. I think Jefferson's also safe, though. Like, I'm really just not scared of the quarterback situation. I think the upside's there for Jefferson as well, a little bit higher than what Amon-Ra's upside is on a team like the Lions. Really, their identity is to be a run-first team, which is a little bit scary. I still think they'll be in plenty of shootouts. Saquon for JT. I got Saquon a little over JT just because I think the receiving upside is a little higher for Saquon than JT, but both have similar receiving concerns with run-first quarterbacks. But yeah, I expect Saquon's receiving stuff to be a little higher than JT's. Similar options. I think JT's rushing game, like production, is a little bit more of a lock than Saquon's just because there's not as much competition behind him as Saquon has. But both guys, right? Both guys are playing alongside similar quarterbacks with Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson, I think, is more limited as a passer than Jalen Hurts is. But both guys, vultures in the red zone potentially. And obviously the tush push. I think both guys are capable of the tush push. Jalen Hurts certainly should be expected to do that more. You think Mott's still going to take away TDs from Gibbs close to the goal line, though? Yeah, for sure. But I'm also not that scared about drafting Gibbs. I know I've seen Gibbs out there on some do not draft lists. I'll talk about that in a second too. I want to talk about Drake London as well, because I did just take him early in round 2 in this draft I'm in on Underdog, and I'm trying to get him in a few more of my Underdog drafts. All right, we're about to be back on the clock here. I'm going to probably stick pretty wide receiver heavy. I want to see the Falcons play the Commanders in week 17. I want to see who they play week 16, 15, get some stacking going here. Raiders and Giants. A little too early to prioritize the stacks, obviously. And the Eagles play the Cowboys. Steph Diggs sitting there a little bit past ADP. Let's see what Walter's saying too in terms of rank. Pittman's up there. Don't hate that. I think I'm going to go with Pittman here. Yeah, I think Pittman. I think I've taken less of Pittman too. We're going to start 3 receivers here. A.J. Brown and Corinne Williams, or Gibbs and Marvin / Puka. AJ Brown and Corinne Williams versus Gibbs and Marv. I think I'd probably lean the AJ Brown side. I'm still feeling out the Corinne Williams. I want to be in on Kyron Williams, but I'm also absolutely terrified. And I think I just prefer to take Blake Corum, 6, 7, 8 rounds later and get all of the same upside with none of the same costs. Like Blake Corum is almost definitely going to need an injury, right, to see that upside, but his cost is just so much lower, and the upside really is there for Corum if Kyron Williams goes down. It's just such an early pick for Kyron Williams. Like for the running backs too, this is part of the reason I'm aggressively trying to get Bijan and Breece in the top 5 picks, because I just think the drop off in risk for running backs is just so massive, really, after Breece and Bijan go off the board. Like I feel good about Gibbs and Saquon and JT as well, but I think they're all a little bit riskier for different reasons. Can you afford to sleep on QBs this year in Superflex and go heavy skill guy early? It depends, Jimmy. Shout out for doing the Walter Pick subscription in the TikTok live, by the way. I think I'm going to go Mark Cooper here and keep stacking these receivers on the draft I'm doing live on YouTube right now. Shout out to everyone in the YouTube live, by the way. Appreciate everyone in here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're starting with a 0 running back build. Actually, we got AJ Brown. I think I got to go Hurts. I think I got to stack these. I haven't gotten much Hurts. I already got AJ Brown. Try to get Goddard later and build this Eagle stack. I didn't see he was sitting there pretty near his average draft position as well. All right, so we started in this draft. I'm doing a draft live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio, or look up Walter Picks on YouTube. It's a real draft, $25 draft. First place prize is $1.5 million because this is a tournament on Underdog. This is a best ball draft. My best lineup is automatically submitted for me at the end of each week. There's no start sit decisions. There's no ads, no drops, no trades. Just the draft. Roster construction is critical. We're going to nail the roster construction, so don't worry about that. We started this draft: AJ Brown, Drake London, Michael Pittman Jr., Jalen Hurts. The reason I want to be in on Drake London, I'm in on Kyle Pitts, I'm in on Bijan, and I'm in on Drake London for a lot of the same reasons. I also just think the talent for Drake London, he's not getting underrated here on Underdog, but just his yards per route run numbers, and I think this seems low, but there's a lot of guys that are being bucketed in here that actually had pretty low volume. Let me pull up the Drake London efficiency numbers here as well. But his yards per route run numbers have actually been extremely strong, despite playing with absolutely horrible quarterback play. By far the best quarterback Drake London will be playing with in his career with Kirk Cousins. He has been above this yards per route run number too. His rookie season yards per route run number. This is the thing that gets me very excited when digging a little bit deeper. I think if I just switch to 2022 here, maybe we'll see it. Yeah, so 2.3 yards per route run for Drake London. This is the most important efficiency metric for receivers is yards per route run. It's one of the stickiest year to year. So his 2.4 is really getting down to 2.3 here on the TikTok live and the Walter Picks app. This ranks extremely high based on the age he did this at. If you look at the other receivers that exceeded a 2.3 yards per route run below age 24, it is all future Hall of Fame receivers and Drake London. And then you consider the situation Drake London has been in his first 2 seasons, and then consider the situation he's in now with Kirk Cousins coming over. The other reason I'm in on the Falcons offense overall is I feel like there's a lot of safety with the backup quarterback situation too, right? You've got an aging quarterback in Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles injury, but even if he goes down, that they spend an early pick on Michael Penix that I think could come in and at least sustain a better offense than what we saw last year for the Falcons. And Arthur Smith is no longer there. All reasons to be in on Drake London, all reasons to be in on Bijan, and all reasons to be in on Kyle Pitts too, who has ranked top 3 among tight ends in air yards every season of his career. And honestly, I kind of want to be on Kyle Pitts more than all those other the other 2 Falcons, just because the cost for Kyle Pitts is the only one that hasn't gone up. Right, the cost for Bijan's at sky high. I'm taking him in it with a top 5 pick this season. The cost for Drake London is also pretty high. I just took him early in second round. In this draft, I think in redraft leagues and in traditional season-long drafts that you guys are all going to be in, probably he's going to go towards the end of the second round, beginning of the third. Kyle Pitts, meanwhile, he's going around 7. Like, people still do not want to touch Kyle Pitts. And there's going to be drafts out there where everyone in your draft hates Kyle Pitts. And I really hope I find myself in some of those drafts this year, because that is the tight end strategy this year. I wanted to get to that subscriber comment in the TikTok live about Superflex drafts and whether you can wait on QB. Every Superflex draft is different, man. The Superflex strategy is so draft to draft. I think that in a lot of Superflex drafts, you absolutely can get away with stacking some super elite players. I mean, I've seen in Superflex leagues, like you can get Justin Jefferson and Bijan on the same team in some Superflex leagues. Everyone pays up for quarterback in the first 2 rounds, and then they're all scrambling to get the whatever talent's left at the other positions, and everyone's fading quarterbacks in rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there's some later quarterbacks. it like pretty deep in Superflex leagues. We're looking at guys like Will Levis, who I like late in a Superflex league. Even Bo Nix. Bo Nix has some sneaky rushing upside that nobody's really talking about either. I expect Bo Nix to start week 1. He's not the worst option. Daniel Jones, you can get super late. He's had rushing upside in the past. He's got Malik Neighbors in probably a better supporting offense than he's had in recent years. Plus, the Giants are going to throw, man. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been watching the Hard Knocks series, but one thing that definitely stood out to me in that Hard Knocks series is the comment about Saquon letting him walk because they're not going to pay Daniel Jones $150 million to hand the ball off. They're going to try to air it out in this offense. We'll see how that goes with Daniel Jones. But you can get him super late. I think Stafford, my favorite mid to late round QB this year, though, the guy I've drafted the most in all of my drafts so far, and I feel a little bit sick about it because I don't love him as a person, but it's Deshaun Watson. I mean, there's just such a clear story to tell about the upside for Deshaun, especially being worth it where he's going in drafts. Back in 2020, the best season, most recent season we've seen from Deshaun, 4 years ago now. 3 seasons, 4 years. And Rashee Rice just got snagged. I'm on the clock here. Anthony Richardson's still there. Oh man, I can't do it. I already took Jalen. You got to resist, Sam. Don't go Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson on the same team. Even though you got the double stack here. Yeah, I can't do it. I think I'm probably going to go Godwin here. I think Godwin. We're going to start with Godwin. We'll see. I bet he's not going to take Anthony Richardson anyway. We'll start with Godwin. Keep building up this receiver room. I'll consider A-Rich next. Let's look at what Walter's saying here too. But yeah, the upside is just so clearly there for Deshaun. He's going so late. He's going as QB 20, 25 on some platforms. I've been getting Deshaun Watson in round 13, round 14. And if Deshaun Watson has a full healthy season, the Browns, I think, will be more pass-heavy this year with Nick Chubb working back from injury. They've already signaled it kind of in their offseason moves too, right? They trade for Jerry Jeudy this offseason, which I do think is going to be an improvement for Deshaun as well. And I think he auto-picks A-Rich. Probably better for me, honestly. It's not smart to invest super early capital into 2 quarterbacks on a team. I had to resist myself there. I see the stacks. I see him sliding past ADP, and I almost pulled the trigger, but I resisted there. And I think this team will be better for it. Joe Mixon is sitting there. There's no stacks there. The Eagles play the Giants. Not really any. I do really like Hopkins. I do want more Xavier Worthy as well. I do also want Roma Dunze. Let's see what the app is saying here in terms of the rankings really quick. Yeah, D-Hop is way at the top. We're going Hopkins. We're doing it. We're stacking. This is a really big 0 running back build here that I got going on the YouTube live. So if you come to the YouTube live, again, link is in the TikTok bio, or just look up Walter Picks on YouTube. Why is Amon-Ra so low? Why Bijan over Tyreek? Look, I like Amon-Ra a lot. I just don't think he has quite the same ceiling, the weekly ceiling that Chase and Jefferson have that Tyreek has, and therefore not not quite as high as a season-long ceiling. The other thing too that I really like about Chase and I really like about Jefferson and Tyreek, I think fits this as well, is they're on like aggressive pass first teams that could be top 5 in the league in pass rate. The lines will not be near the top of the league in pass rate. You really just need a huge target share, strong efficiency, and a good touchdown total from Amon-Ra. I think that the floor is pretty safe with him. He finished super high last season, really consistent. Like, I got nothing bad to say about Amon-Ra other than his team does want to have a run first identity, which I don't love. He was wide receiver 5 in fantasy points per game last season. Super consistent player. I just think the weekly ceiling is a bit higher. We saw in half PPR formats, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he didn't have a single 30-point game. You look at Chase's game logs, Justin Jefferson's game logs, like these guys can put up 30 bombs, 40 bombs even in a given week and just win you leagues when it comes down to the stretch in the finals. So yeah, I lean a little bit more that way for that reason. I still like Amon-Ra in PPR formats a lot. But yeah, the reason I got Bijan so high and I got Brees so high is I think there's a super steep drop off in the true league winning, like season altering running back stories. I really think there's 3 of them that are super clear. And then I think the next 4 I'm also going to be pretty aggressive with. And then there's like a huge drop off. And I do not want to spend my drafts chasing running backs in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6. There's so many valuable receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks going in that range. And the running backs you're getting I do not think are even near the tier of the first 6. McCaffrey is in a tier of his own, but Bijan really could be in that same tier this year. The workload's going to go way up. The offense is going to get much more efficient. He could legitimately lead the league in touchdowns, and he was number 3 in running back target share as a rookie. He only saw 46% though of Falcons rushing attempts last season. That could be double this season. Literally could be double if he stays healthy based on the workload that they've been talking about giving Bijan. the efficiency was very positive for Bijan as a rookie too. Breece Hall, look down the stretch for Breece Hall, and there really wasn't a better running back down the stretch in fantasy football, especially in PPR leagues, than Breece. Let me scroll up here in the Walter Picks app. We'll pull up the Breece Hall game logs for everyone to see. Guys, we are live on YouTube and TikTok. We're going to get back to the comments here in a second after this next pick. I'm doing a live draft on YouTube right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, you're missing out. Like, just to be real, everyone in the YouTube chat, they understand it. You're missing out because you're seeing a real draft. There's nothing like real drafts to prepare you for your most important season-long drafts. Nothing like it. How are we doing, Yarsma? We are doing fantastic, man. It is the best time. It's the best time of the year. There's not a better time of the year. I mean, we're at the cusp of draft season beginning. Like, I've been in draft season. I've done over 300 drafts. Like, I'm out of control. I can't stop drafting. It just happens to me every year around this time. But it's the best time of year, man. I'm so pumped for the upcoming month of the year. All right, we're about to be back on the clock here. We definitely need to consider running backs. Demont probably got to go Najee here. Like, this is the thing. This is why the zero running back build is probably going to be the build that wins Best Ball Mania this year. I think I might just stack these two together, which is a strategy I have liked a lot. I might actually. He hasn't taken a tight end. We're gonna go Jake Ferguson here to start, and then we'll get one of these running backs. The Cowboys play the Eagles in Week 17. I already got the Hurts and AJ Brown stack. He took Mondre. Perfect. I'm gonna go Najee Harris here. I really like the floor that Najee offers in this format of just like, I only need to start 2 running backs every week in this format. This is a half PPR format I'm drafting right now. And we look at Najee's game logs. They're not going to be like, he's not a sexy pick. He's not the most exciting pick, but you look at the track record for Arthur Smith, and Jaylen Warren got picked 1 pick after him. I like Jaylen Warren too for similar reasons, but you look at the track record for Arthur Smith, and all this guy wants to do is run the ball. Arthur Smith is the pinnacle of a run first offensive coordinator. It's part of the reason I'm really scared about George Pickens. I think Pickens is extremely talented so far, like in terms of gap from the top receiver on a team to the next receiver on the team, like Pickens is up there, man, in terms of the gap of just like receiving weapons. It goes Pickens, and then it goes Pat Freiermuth, and then we're looking at Calvin Austin or Van Jefferson or Roman Wilson, the rookie who they drafted, who's currently out for multiple weeks, and we'll see if he's ready for Week 1, but nothing to really like get super excited about there in terms of being a competent number 2 receiver in the offense. It's probably going to be Van Jefferson and George Pickens in 2 wide receiver sets. I mean, just egregious stuff in the wide receiver department. Pickens is going to have some massive spike weeks, I just think, with Arthur Smith's history, and this team is going to be run first. Arthur Smith, his teams have been top 5 in rushing yards per game. Basically every year he's been in the NFL in a significant play calling role. So Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren, I think, are great picks. They're going to split the backfield. But yeah, you look at the floor here for Najee. He's going over 8 points almost every week. I only need to start 2 running backs in this format. I didn't spend a running back pick in the first 7 rounds, and I still got Najee Harris in round 8. Definitely not how your season-long draft is going to go. The best ball format, again, skews super wide receiver heavy. I'm leaning into that here. My first picks in this draft, again, I'm doing a live draft over on YouTube. We're watching live on TikTok. Make sure you come to that. You are missing out. I can share my screen on the YouTube live. It is a way better viewing experience, I promise you. I had the 11th pick, and I'm clearly drafting with some people who just aren't ready to draft against me because they let AJ Brown slide to pick 11, which is just a colossal mistake. I would be easily taking AJ Brown over Puka Nacua and Garrett Wilson in drafts. Look, I like Puka and Garrett Wilson too. I don't like them as much as AJ Brown. I got Drake London in the early second. I'm trying to get a little bit more of Drake London because we saw some very early signal. When you see extremely strong efficiency at an extremely young age, it's almost always one of the most positive signals you can find. This is why people care about early breakouts when it comes to scouting prospects. If you were able to dominate on your team at age 18 in college, like that, there's a signal to that versus dominating at age 21. Similar thing in the NFL. Drake London enters the NFL at an age below 24. He has 2.3 yards per route run. You look at the other receivers that below the age of 24 have achieved that mark. You're looking at Justin Jefferson. You're looking at Jamar Chase. You're looking at only future Hall of Fame receivers. Like in the list of those top 10 receivers that have done that below that age, I think 9 of them are going to make the Hall of Fame. Drake London, obviously we'll see about that, but certainly a good signal for him. And then you think about the context of what Drake London's been operating under. Desmond Ridder being his quarterback, from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins. I mean, clearly people are understanding that in these underdog drafts. That's why I had to take him so early. I don't think people are going to understand that in all of your redraft leagues. So definitely something to look out for. All right, let's get to some of these comments here. What about Kamara? Yeah, I've flip-flopped multiple times this draft season so far on Kamara. When I first started drafting, which was way too early, like right around when the NFL draft ended, I couldn't stop drafting Alvin Kamara with where he was going. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe where I saw Alvin Kamara getting drafted. If you're looking at it right now on the YouTube live, if you're watching live on YouTube, again, if you're not, look up Walter Picks on YouTube or just go in the TikTok bio and tap on YouTube to see this draft board. I'm in a live, real draft, $25 draft right now. Alvin Kamara went in the 7th round. This is a half PPR format, to be fair, definitely in PPR. He's going to go earlier than this. But Kamara was the third best running back in fantasy football in PPR points per game last season. He had like over 75 catches, and he could easily get 75 catches again. And I want running backs that could get to it. You could count the number of running backs that could realistically do that probably on 3 fingers. All right, we're going to be back on the clock here in a second. I feel like Devin Singletary is like a poor man's Najee Harris this season. Just like the most unsexy pick, but like will get over 200 carries and will have a kind of a sneaky floor. I don't hate B-Rob. I did take Drake London, who plays the Commanders in week 17. So I don't hate that at all. I really want Goddard too. This guy might snag Goddard, but I think he might be auto picking actually because he's going off ADP. We'll see if we can sneak Goddard in and stack him with Jalen Hurts or not. I feel like when he took Anthony Richardson, that was 100% an auto pick. If you can sense when people are auto picking, it's actually a huge edge. Like I just know for sure if this guy's auto picking, he's taking Tyler Lockett and Devin Singletary. And there's no reason for me not to realize that and plan that. These are some small edges you can get in these drafts. Look, the timer's about to go. We're about to see this. He's about to go Lockett Singletary. No, my God, he's definitely listing. That was painful. Way overconfident there. I really wanted that stack too. He auto picked whatever Q he had there to Dallas Goedert. That was sad. Chase or Jefferson considering QB play. Yeah, if you're considering QB play, then obviously you're gonna lean Chase if you're considering QB play. But I think you're over considering QB play if you choose to take Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson. I'm not gonna like criticize you or like really fault anyone for making that call though. I think I kind of have to go Singletary here now. Oh, there's Brandon Cooks. I don't hate Brandon Cooks either. We're going to go Singletary. We're going to do it. The best ADP value on the board. It's a gross pick. I feel like this might be the first time I've drafted him. But if he stays healthy, Devin Singletary is going to get over 200 carries. I do think Tyrone Tracy will probably mix in, and some guys will mix in for the pass role. I saw something out there recently. Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, they were on the same team not that long ago, and Devin Singletary was the guy playing over Zach Moss. Zach Moss, meanwhile, he's getting picked well before Devin Singletary, obviously in a much better offense, but also much more competition for Zach Moss. Zach Moss is definitely dangerously close to my do not draft list. He's certainly a candidate there. Serious thoughts on Deontay Johnson. No Garrett over Puka. Yeah, I could see it. I could see a really good argument for trying to get Garrett Wilson into this top 12 list I have on on TikTok. Serious thoughts on Deontay Johnson. What you think he's going to do with Carolina? Yeah, so in PPR formats, I'm targeting Deontay Johnson pretty aggressively. I think the aggressiveness I will be targeting Deontay Johnson in fantasy football will go down in magnitudes as you go down in scoring format. Knowing your scoring format is super important in fantasy football. This is part of the reason that you need to download the Walter Picks app if you want the best possible chance to win your fantasy football league, because the true value of the Walter Picks app is you sync your leagues to the app, and then every single insight you're getting from there on is custom to your league scoring settings. The ranking that we have for Deontay Johnson in the Walter Picks app for PPR leagues versus half PPR leagues versus non-PPR leagues is one of the biggest gaps for all players. I think that makes a lot of sense. Deontay Johnson could legitimately be top 10 in receptions this season. It's really not that crazy to say or that crazy to think, considering that Adam Thielen had the 9th most receptions in the NFL last year. And Deontay Johnson is a better all-around receiver than Adam Thielen. Deontay Johnson is going to flirt with a 30% target share in this Panthers offense. Bryce Young was abysmal last year. I mean, there's really no way around it. He arguably was the worst starting quarterback in the NFL last season. You could make that argument for sure. It was bad. He was a rookie though. There's only ways to go up for Bryce Young. Dave Canales being there is definitely a very positive thing. He revitalized Baker Mayfield's career and Geno Smith's career. I believe Geno Smith was the other one that he had a really positive impact on. Why not help Bryce Young with a big year 2 leap? So there's some positive signs there for Deontay Johnson. But even with Bryce Young being awful, which is definitely in the cards, like Bryce Young maybe is a little too small, a little too slow for the NFL. He still got Adam Thielen the 9th most receptions in the NFL last season. He still could get Deontay Johnson the 9th most receptions in the NFL this season. If he does that, you're going to want Deontay Johnson in PPR leagues. Those are all just straight points to the lineup. So yeah, I'm in on Deontay Johnson in PPR. I'm probably out in all other formats. I don't have a ton of confidence in the touchdowns. How late are you taking QB in a 10-man league? Definitely depends who I'm drafting against. I think in the smaller sized leagues, I am more willing to pay up for quarterbacks, the elite quarterbacks, the Jalen Hurts, the Josh Allen, the Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, like one of those guys. Because I when you're playing against less guys in a league, it's more important to dominate the quarterback position. Whereas in the bigger formats, like I do actually wait on quarterback longer because I think that like the QB7, QB8, QB9, really not that much different than the QB 13, 14, 15, 16 that are available this season. I'm fine. If I'm in a 12 or even 14 team league, I'm probably going to end up waiting on QB because when you take a QB early, there's so much opportunity cost in those leagues. The running backs, receivers drive so fast. Meanwhile, in round 9 and 10, Deshaun Watson's just going to be sitting there. He could easily average 22 fantasy points per game this season, be a top 10 quarterback if he just stays healthy. All right, we're back on the clock. Jalen Polk got to be considered at least. We're got a balanced roster all of a sudden after going 0 running back. Definitely don't need to force the running backs here. I do really, really like Blake Corum in this format. This is a big tournament. Blake Corum, I believe, will be a top 5 fantasy football running back if Kyren Williams gets hurt. That's like all of a sudden just this massive unlock. Plus, I got some steady running backs to try to buy some time for him. I decided to go Corum here, take the 4th running back. Probably need to go receiver now. I'm going to look towards Dotson or Polk. I do still kind of like Dotson more than Polk. I'm trying not to be a biased Pats fan here. The Pats seemingly want to be a pass first team. I really don't understand how that's going to work out when they're going to be massive underdogs in every game. Well, I did my first season long draft, like real season long draft, a couple of weeks ago with some other people in the industry. So it was definitely a really sharp draft, and Dotson didn't go. And I was looking, so it was the first time I had to consider defenses because there's no defenses draft in this underdog draft, which I love. And so when I'm looking at the defenses, all I care about is week 1 matchup. Like, don't talk to me about which defense you think is going to be best this season. You're probably wrong. Every single year we get wrong which defenses are actually going to be the strongest this time. Could care less really for that analysis. This time of year, I think is way overblown. I just want to know who's the biggest favorite in week 1. And guess who the biggest favorite in week 1 is? We're going Dotson here over Jalen Polk. The biggest favorite is the Cincinnati Bengals because guess who they're playing? It's the Pats. The Pats are going to be one of the biggest underdogs every single week. So how are you going to be a run first team and be getting crushed every game? I think the defense is going to be good for the Pats and like sneakily have a chance to be a top 5 defense because their secondary can be really strong, especially if Barmore is able to come back. That's definitely uncertain at this point. But I don't see how you can be a run first team and be 8-point underdogs every single week. Like those two things just don't go well together unless you're just running out the clock while losing, which maybe is possible if they're trotting out Jacoby Brissett out every single week. But I think Dotson's ceiling is a little bit higher with Jaden Daniels than Polk is with some combo of Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. Certainly a chance that we see Drake May sit the whole season. How do you feel about Robinson being so high? Yeah, I feel good about Robinson being high. I'm very in on Bijan Robinson. Am I cooked at the 109? It depends, man. It depends like how your draft goes. I think that you are cooked if AJ Brown is off the board at that point, which actually I don't hate the 9th pick. I do think that picks 1 through 8 are the best picks in fantasy football this year. And I personally really like a lot of these early third round picks. Like I feel like there's a teardrop right around Cooper Kupp. In the 3rd round, there is a bit of a teardrop that you see happen in the 3rd, whereas like the whole 2nd round, I feel like is kind of comparable. But the running back situation is going to be way different than this draft board you're seeing now on the YouTube live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. And you can see on the YouTube live, I'm in a live draft. Someone asked in the TikTok live, what is Walter Picks? It's an app. Walter Picks is a company, and it is an app, and it is a brand. But it really is an app. It is an app that helps you dominate in fantasy football. And if you want to see the app in live action, I'm in a real draft, $25 draft on the YouTube live, and the app is on screen. Again, the YouTube live, nothing against everyone on TikTok. Shout out to everyone on TikTok. Appreciate everyone there too. But the YouTube live is unquestionably a better viewing experience because I can share my computer screen. And on my computer screen, you can see the Walter Picks app in action and get a better sense of what it is. But what the Walter Picks app is, it's an AI-powered insights platform for fantasy and sports betting. You can sync all of your fantasy leagues. You can sync all of your sports books for personalized insights powered by AI. The AI's name is Walter. That's why it's called Walter Picks. My name is Sam. Classic mistake. I'm not Walter. I am Sam. I helped build the app, though. I've been helping build the app for the last 4 years of my life. I've invested every dollar, every basically hour I've had over the last 4 years into building the app. And that's what the app is. Sync your league. Go check it out. It has basically every decision you have to make in fantasy, it's going to help you with. Draft day. Syncs literally pick by pick, like you're seeing in the YouTube live right now. The draft tool syncs pick by pick, shows you a value for replacement insights every single pick. So I know that Chuba Hubbard is the best value over the replacement player right now on this draft board is Chuba Hubbard. I know that based on the Walter Picks app. I didn't have to do anything. I just synced my league. Also, rankings, custom your league settings, projections, custom your league settings. But also, like, if you don't trust the Walter Picks projections, which is probably a mistake, but if you don't, like, all the information you could possibly want to make your own analysis and have your own take is right here in the app. You can research every single advanced metric possible for a player for free in the Walter Picks app, and you can compare players very seamlessly. Okay, we are about to be back on the clock. I don't really want a tight end. Chuba Hubbard is the best running back, but I don't think it's early enough to take him. I feel like I'm so scared Jermaine Burton's going to end up being a 0. Ricky Pearsall, definitely interesting. The receivers dry up real quick. Kamani Vidal is getting a lot of negative reports. Don't feel great about him. Deshaun got snagged. He's kind of my go-to guy in this range. I have no Lions players. That doesn't mean I can't take Pearsall. I feel like the Pearsall at Burton is like probably the answer here. I don't need to force a quarterback. Hawkinson's kind of interesting, honestly. We're at pick 1. Yeah, it's not that. I'm going to go Pearsall. We're going to take Pearsall, 7th receiver. Especially like when I start like so heavy early receiver, especially with some of these veterans, some of the older guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Godwin, I do like layering in some of the rookies with them. He goes Hawkinson and Johnson. I could get Burton as my 8th receiver. I don't hate that. It maybe limits some of my stacking late. Kirk is gone. Everyone's gone. Will Levis I could maybe get. Maybe want to leave that slot open. I think I got to go running back here instead. I'm going to go another high upside running back for the 0 running back build with Jalen Wright. 2 rookie running backs for my last 2 picks. I took 3 dusty, unsexy running backs as my first 3 running backs, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary. And then I took 2 sexy high upside running backs, rookie running backs, Blake Corum and Jalen Wright as my next 2 running backs. Let me read off this team to you guys so far. So I got Jalen Hurts stacked with A.J. Brown. I got the Week 17 correlated stack against Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown with Jake Ferguson. So I got that game stack going. I got Drake London, Michael Pittman, Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins. 0 running back build. I did not take a running back till round 8 in this draft. I got Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Devin Singletary, Blake Corum, and Jalen Wright, the running back slot. And then I added 2 additional receivers in my last couple picks, Jahan Dotson and Ricky Pearsall. I like the receivers, and Jermaine Burton definitely fits this bill as well. They have the contingent upside of they're 1 injury away from a potentially really significant role. I do think Ricky Pearsall offers a lot more than what Juwan Johnson is going to offer. Do I think he's going to play ahead of him right away? Maybe not. I don't really care if Ricky Pearsall doesn't play ahead of Juwan Johnson right now in training camp. I don't care if he doesn't play ahead of Juwan Johnson at the start of the season. All I care about in this tournament, this is a tournament against hundreds of thousands of other people that I'm drafting in. All I care about is week 17. And if I get there, I want to come in first place because first place has a $1.5 million prize. And the payout structure is steep, guys. The payout structure is steep. Look at this. First place gets $1.5 million. If I come in 10th, $150K. It's actually not as steep as it used to be. Still a pretty steep drop off here. Like you want to have a shot at first place if you make it to the finals. So really, I need Pearsall to get out there in week 17. And typically the rookie receivers, they're getting out there in week 17. They're definitely good late picks, especially the early the receivers that are drafted earlier. Plus there's the contingent upside of Ayuk, Debo injury or trade for Ayuk still on the table for sure. Is Bijan going to be better because of the new head coach? Yes. Bijan's going to be better because of the new head coach and because of Kirk Cousins. It's the head coach. It's the coaching, play calling, and it's Kirk Cousins. Pick 3. What advice? Yeah, so I think the top 3 this year: CMC, Lamb, and then Bijan. I think I get aggressive and go Bijan with the 3rd pick in a PPR league. Godwin/McLaurin. Yeah, let's do that comparison in the Walter Picks app quick on this live. Definitely an interesting one. I have a feeling McLaurin, his ADP is maybe a tiny bit higher. Let's see. We got Godwin. This is half PPR format we're looking at here too. ADP does favor McLaurin. We got Godwin projected ahead of him. I kind of agree with this. I kind of would take Godwin over McLaurin. I agree with this whole thing here. This is Walter's projections here, AI-powered projections that are powered by millions of historical advanced stats, plus our expert projections team, which I am a part of, that power some of the projections assumptions like target share, for example, and pass plays per game for each team. But yeah, Chris Godwin, his floor is just way safer than McLaurin. The Commanders are going to potentially be pretty run heavy with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is a Russian quarterback. They have Brian Robinson, who they're definitely going to run a lot. Austin Eckler is definitely going to be involved as well. Jahan Dotson, though, is an extremely talented deep passer, which gets me. That's part of the reason I'm really, really excited about Jahan Dotson, who we've seen have an efficient deep receiving role before. And Jahan Dotson is now pairing with the best deep passer that he's ever played with. So very excited for him. I think it could benefit McLaurin for that same reason. I just think the floor is pretty low for both guys, Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, on a week-to-week basis. If Jaden Daniels is going to run enough, there just might not be enough passing volume to go around to trust him as much as we have on a week-to-week basis. I think ceiling higher for both McLaurin and Dotson this year, but floor a bit lower with potentially a more rush-heavy offense. Chris Godwin, meanwhile, I think is locked in to a significant role. Chris Godwin sneakily had more catches, more receptions than Mike Evans last year. Mike Evans is getting drafted 5 rounds before Chris Godwin. It's because Mike Evans had 13 touchdowns last season. Chris Godwin had 2, despite Chris Godwin having more receptions. I think that we're going to see some positive regression for Chris Godwin in the touchdown column, and I think he's a really good value in PPR leagues right now. All right, we're going to be back on the clock soon. Need some quarterbacks and tight ends, a couple of which I do like. I don't hate Jonnu Smith. I probably would just go Dolch later though. I'm getting so aggressive with Greg Dolch. I feel like I have an edge with him late in drafts right now. Daniel Jones, Drake May, man, this would dried up so quick. Maybe I got to go Bo Nix here and get Dolch later for that stack. Well, not here, but later. I think I might go. Yeah, I'm going Bucky Irving. I don't love stacking him with Chris Godwin. I do like getting another rookie running back on this team, though. I think I need to go Mims. I might try to get this backdoor Bronco stack here and go Mims as my 8th receiver. Oh my God, I swear this guy's listening to this live stream. I'm getting sniped left and right here by the guy I thought was auto drafting. He definitely heard that comment. I don't have any Giants. I do have Devin Singletary. That's not really a stack I'm looking for. I really don't want to go Troy Franklin either. I'm going Bo Nix. Ahead of ADP, we're going to try stacking with Dolch later. I do not feel great about how the quarterback room shaped up, but I have Jalen Hurts. And when you have Jalen Hurts or one of these elite guys, I think you can get away with builds like this. I really wish I went Mims over Bucky Irving, though. I did not think that through enough while on live. All right, Godwin, no doubt. Yeah. It's so nice to not see constant starts at spam in the live chat. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Opinion on round 3 receivers. I have 3.3 and hate the options. Yeah, we'll take a look at these round 3 receivers. I think the round 3 receivers are going to look better, too, in your redraft leagues than in this draft where the receivers dry up so fast. Like, I think we're going to see some of these guys going around 2 in this draft sneak it around 3. I do really like Malik Neighbors. I think Malik Neighbors versus Marvin Harrison Jr., when you compare their costs this season, it's just such clear value with Neighbors. I think both are great. I had Marvin Harrison ranked ahead in my prospect model. He ranked ahead of Malik Neighbors, but really not by that much. They both prospected as generational talents, and we saw it in the NFL draft. They were both really viewed very similarly. Meanwhile, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going like 2 full rounds ahead of Malik Neighbors in a lot of the home league drafts that I've seen. He didn't go that far apart in this draft here, but I think Malik Neighbors is going to be right there in round 3 in a lot of leagues this season. I like him a lot. All paths lead to a significant target share from Malik Neighbors this season. Don't be surprised if we see Malik Neighbors pass a 30% target share in his rookie season. It absolutely is going to be possible. I think it's going to be possible right out of the gates. I think he's going to have a super high floor. And if Daniel Jones can just put the ball near him enough, it's going to be a high ceiling too for Malik Neighbors. There's just no, like talking about George Pickens and the gap between the best receiver on the team to the next best receiving weapon. Neighbors is definitely up there in terms of that gap as well. Probably honestly even bigger gap for Pickens. He's going from George Pickens to Pat Freiermuth, the two best receiving weapons for the Steelers. Maybe you could argue Jalen Warren's the second best receiving weapon. For the Giants, it goes Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, or Jalen Hyatt. I mean, it's such a massive gap. Like there's just no way Malik Neighbors isn't just an absolute stud right out of the gates in both real life and fantasy football. So yeah, I like Malik Neighbors in round 3 a lot. I think he definitely could be a top 10 receiver in fantasy right out of the gates. Jalen Waddle, if he slides to round 3, I like him a lot too. I think he will slide to round 3 in a lot of redraft leagues. I think he's a really strong pick. Devontae Smith too. I think both Devontae Smith and Jalen and AJ Brown, both really good picks. The new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, coming over to the Philadelphia Eagles. One of these guys, if not both, is going to benefit massively from this offensive coordinator change. For the Eagles, they're going to run a lot more motion. And historically, the Kellen Moore slot receiver has popped off in fantasy football. They get so many high value, high efficient touches. And I think Devontae Smith and AJ Brown will probably both mix in that slot role this season. But if I had to pick which guy's going to be in there more, it's probably Devontae Smith. So definitely don't be surprised if Devontae Smith has a season that surprises some people. Obviously, he's already been really good, really young talent. And the targets are so condensed too in Philadelphia. Saquon obviously could change that a little bit, but I think after AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, like the next highest target share might be 6%. Like the drop off is going to be massive. Usually it's a little bit flatter than that on most teams. So I do like all three of those guys, Waddle, Devontae Smith, and Neighbors, all went kind of close to the second round in this draft, but I think we'll go in round 3 in most home league drafts that you're in. How do you sync it with Underdog? Riley, I'm so glad to see you ask this question. Right now, this is in beta and internal only, so you can't access it from the app. That's about to change, though. We're actually about to release this. It's still going to be in beta. About to release this in the Walter Picks app for all the Walter Picks app users out there. It's actually going to be free for everyone to test, so we can get some feedback on it in beta. So keep your eye out, Riley, for an app update. It's probably going to come in the next 5 days to the App Store. We're going to get aggressive and make sure this guy does not snipe Dolch from me, even though he already has 3 tight ends. And then, let's see, is there another? Josh Reynolds is interesting, potentially. I also don't hate Paris Campbell. There's been some buzz for him. Don't hate him. One of these two guys stacked with one of these quarterbacks probably is the move here. I really don't feel like I need a third tight end. I don't hate Will Shipley, but I already have 6 running backs. I'm fine keeping 7 receivers too, because I started extremely aggressive at the receiver position. Definitely not feeling the need to reach on a receiver. Paris Campbell, well, let me know in the chat. Paris Campbell or Josh? It's Paris Campbell. Josh Reynolds. I think it's Paris Campbell. Josh Reynolds had 108 points last season. But screw it. I pivoted there last second. Let's do this comparison real quick. I already had 2, or I guess I only had 1 stack with. I also kind of wish I went Jermaine Burton earlier rather than Ricky Pearsall, because the Broncos play the Bengals in Week 17. Let's see this. Paris Campbell. This is what you get on the Walter Picks live stream when we get down to round 18 and we're scrolling the F down. Let's see, on the player list, and we're comparing Paris Campbell and Josh Reynolds. And Walter agrees that I made the right call there with Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds scored 100 fantasy points last season, which is definitely surprising to me. 6.6 points per game. Did he have any spike weeks? Yeah, we got 2. We got 2 spike weeks out of him. He had some role in the playoffs too for the Lions, I believe, last season. Obviously, a little bit better of a situation. I don't think there's been really any news on him for a while. I do think he's probably ahead of Troy Franklin from what I've seen out of their camp. But yeah, he was better in basically every single category. I feel like there's Paris Campbell's probably wide receiver 3 on the Eagles. Early bet for wide receiver 3. That has never really meant anything in fantasy though, and I don't even think an injury will change that. If I'm picking 8th, is there certain players that I should avoid? Yeah, so I think the 8th pick is one of the best picks in fantasy. You take one of these 8 players: McCaffrey, Lamb, Bijan, Tyreek, Brees, Jefferson, Chase, or Amon-Ra. And you're getting the end, I think, of just a super elite tier in fantasy football drafts this year. And then you get the first pick in the second round of all guys that had one of those 8 elite players. I don't hate pick 9. I can get AJ Brown. I think Garrett Wilson's a fine pick too. I do think Puka is like just a slight bump down from AJ Brown. I think Puka over Garrett Wilson is fine to consider too. Did you see the fight that broke out at Steelers training camp? I did not see that. How bad was the fight? Hey man, I'm sure I'll see it very soon. So me and my boys drafted already. I was offered Tyreek and Kenneth Walker for Christian McCaffrey. Do it. All right, we're going to pull out the trade analyzer here really quick on this live stream. First trade question of the season. Just draft stack strategy here. Got some insights here in the Walter picks up. Honestly, I do not hate this starting lineup that I'm seeing. All right, let's see in the trade analyzer. I honestly, my gut reaction to this question is to do the trade. Is to take Tyreek Hill and Kenneth Walker. I'm not even a big. Let me unsync here to this best ball draft. Go into the trade analyzer. I'm not even a big Kenneth Walker fan, but I mean Tyreek and Christian McCaffrey, they're going back to back in drafts. Really, they're going like a few picks apart. Like I certainly would prefer McCaffrey. I've taken McCaffrey, but man, PPR format, you're giving up the best player. It depends. Is Kenneth Walker going to be in your starting lineup too? Like that's the thing too. This is the other reason the Walter Picks app is like you just need this app if you want to give yourself the best chance to win your fantasy football leagues, because not only can you sync your leagues to get like the right trade values for your league settings, the other thing you get when you sync your league to the trade analyzer, which I can't show because I don't have your league synced to the app right now on the YouTube live, is you see how this trade affects your starting lineup projections. Like this is ultimately what actually matters in trades, not these arbitrary trade values that we try to put together that I do think like are important to think about. But what actually matters is this trade actually going to help me score more points against my opponents in fantasy? And that really is dependent on who is currently on your team, how good your team is at different positions. And that's the thing that this will take into account too. Because like if Kenneth Walker is going to be in your starting lineup over say like a Devin Singletary, like I just drafted a dusty Devin Singletary as your running back 2, and you also are lacking like an elite receiver 1. You trade McCaffrey. I guess Kenneth will probably slide in maybe as a running back 2 after trading CMC. But like that's the type of insight too that really could sway me. Like this is close in trade. I think this is a fair trade. Like and yeah, the trade values maybe are like almost always just going to bump to whatever side CMC is on, because like he really just is such a massive edge over everyone as long as he stays healthy. Like just such a massive edge to have him on your team. But yeah, it's definitely it depends. But I personally, my gut reaction was yes. I'm not feeling great about it after looking at this, but I also just kind of want to know how it's going to impact your team. Why does it have K9 higher than Tyreek? Oh, that's a good question. Let's see what settings are going on in here. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you called that out. This is definitely affecting the trade. I just jacked up the running back. What's your settings too? That definitely matters. If it's 3 wide receivers, Tyreek's way more valuable than what I had here as 2. What's the settings for this? I'm so glad you caught that. I was just glossing over that. Yeah, this changes so much. Now my gut reaction, I feel great about. Because like it too, like if this is actually the settings, so you got to start 3 receivers. If it's 2 and 2, it's going to be more balanced. Again, this is the reason to sync the league, right? Because your settings matter a ton, the roster settings and the scoring settings. So first of all, yeah, PPR. I should ask that at the rip. Is it a PPR league? Half PPR, non-PPR? What are the roster settings? It matters a ton. Brees over Bijan. I'm fine with that. I'm not going to argue a ton in the first 8 picks. Like I would argue these top 2. Like I'm willing to debate people that McCaffrey and Lamb should be the first 2 picks in every single fantasy draft. I'm open to discussion on Bijan being 3rd, Tyreek being 4th, Brees being 5th, Jefferson being 6th, Chase being 7th, Amon-Ra being 8th. Why can't you trust Bijan? Bijan did everything to show you why we should trust him last season. He was extremely efficient on the ground in his limited touches. He had less than half the carries for the Falcons last season, 47% rush share. That's going to be close to 80% this season, near the Christian McCaffrey range. He could literally lead the league in touchdowns with the efficiency we saw from him and with the increased workload we're going to see from him this season and with the improved offense we're going to see with Kirk Cousins on the team. We also saw Bijan check the big target share box as well. Tad, how we doing, man? Great to see you back in the live stream. Where do you stand with JT? Yeah, so in PPR leagues, I'm probably going to be out. Like, I think I'm just going to be out, and he's just going to be one of these guys in PPR formats that is just going to be able to break me in fantasy this season. In a half PPR league, I'm definitely much more willing to consider. In a non-PPR league, I'm going to be targeting him super aggressively in the first round. Non-PPR leagues, like I'm just only drafting running backs in the first round if I can, because all that matters in the non-PPR leagues is touchdowns, basically. But yeah, I'm typically playing PPR formats. I'm very, very nervous about what the receiving role is going to look like for Jonathan Taylor with Anthony Richardson back in as the starting quarterback. There's certainly risk of some touchdowns being vultured. I do think he'll benefit efficiency wise from Anthony Richardson. Like I think he's fine. I just don't. He doesn't have the receiving profile that I want in a first round running back in fantasy, and I think he's going to go in the first round in most home league drafts. He definitely obviously had flashes. Good end to last season. He was the running back one, right? I think the year before that. That's why he was getting picked in like the first round of drafts. Not the year before that. It was the season before, 2021, 2 seasons ago. 21.9 fantasy points per game. Like, are we going to see this, JT? I mean, this is if I fade this, I'm going to get dusted in fantasy this season. So this is the fear of fading Jonathan Taylor. I got his game logs up on the YouTube live right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. If you're on the YouTube live, guys, smash the like button. We are going to wrap up soon. But yeah, this is the scary part of fading JT. An increased, even more efficient JT. Like we could see this again from him. And this was not coming from receiving production. Like you look at the receiving role, target shares, he had 1-2 games over a 12% target share this season. So like, is it even right for me to fade him because of receiving role? Like, I don't know. This is PPR scoring I'm looking at too. So I think I'm generally out in PPR scoring. I just find myself, I'm going to take AJ Brown. I'm going to take Garrett Wilson. I think I'm leaning even Jahmyr Gibbs over him in PPR formats. The other guys in that range, I probably would go JT over Marvin Harrison Jr. I agree with that ranking here. I would take JT over all these guys below him here. Honestly, like I'm more excited about Achane than JT in PPR formats. And that's definitely, I don't know if I'm bold enough to do that in a draft, but like where Achane's going in drafts in the late second, early third versus JT is going to have to take a first round pick. I think Achane has basically just as much league winning upside as JT. I think Achane in the exact same role as last season, Achane can pay off his current draft cost. And there's absolutely a chance that we see both these numbers, target share and rush share, spike for Achane, even just a little bit, and all of a sudden Achane's a league winner. All of a sudden, Achane, like he's just one of the few guys, Devon Achane, where there's just a clear story you could tell with Achane to be the best running back in fantasy football. He ends up getting close to a workhorse role, and the efficiency doesn't drop off dramatically, and like he's just the best running back in fantasy. Already on a week-to-week basis, without a workhorse role, Achane can be the running back one any given week. He scored 51 points in week 3 last season, but he had 5 games over 20 points. I just think the role is destined to increase too for Achane. At cost, I like Achane more than JT, but I'm not going to take JT. I'm not going to take Achane over JT straight up. So yeah, I mean, I'll let the draft come to me a little bit with Jonathan Taylor, but yeah, I'm taking AJ Brown over him, Garrett Wilson over him, Puka Nacua over him. I'm taking Saquon over him as well. I think a lot of people will take JT over Saquon. I like the receiving upside for Saquon more. I also like the offensive line for the Eagles more. I really don't think you want to underrate the offensive line upgrade that Saquon got this offseason. It's going to be comparable to the David Montgomery upgrade from last season. David Montgomery went from the Bears, a bottom 5 offensive line, to the Lions, the number 1 offensive line in the NFL, or maybe number 2 if you want to argue the Eagles. And this season is going to be something, and all of a sudden, David Montgomery top 5 in touchdowns. It's going to be a similar thing with Saquon, I think. He's going from the Giants, bottom 5 offensive line in the NFL, to the Eagles, top 5 offensive line in the NFL. I don't think we should underestimate the efficiency boost, the touchdown boost that's going to give to Saquon. We really just haven't seen Saquon with like an elite offensive line before. All right. You guys can see my exposures here a little bit on the YouTube live. I gotta cool it with Braylon Allen a little bit. Contingent upside there for sure. Pretty flat exposures for me though this season, all things considered, from what I've done in the past. Does the Bijan news scare you? If by the Bijan news, you mean the news that Tyler Algier is going to have a big role? Yeah, that doesn't scare me at all. I think they like that whole comment is being overblown if you actually watch that interview. I assume that's what you mean by the Bijan news. I'm literally seeing on my timeline right now, Bo Nix to Josh Reynolds. Nothing better after we just completed that stack. Guys, thank you so much for your time. We're going to be doing these live streams weekly, gearing up for daily before we get to the Sunday morning lives that are less than a month away. Man, I cannot wait. It is the best time of year, draft season. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like and follow button on TikTok. If you haven't yet, the best way you could possibly support me and the best way you could possibly increase your chances of winning your fantasy football league this year is downloading the Walter Picks app. Use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out. Download the app. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description, or just look up Walter Picks on the App Store. We're rising up the App Store charts as we speak. Guys, have a great night. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. I'll be back live super soon. Have a great day, everybody.